name is Daniel and I'm glad you're watching me. And if you're new to this channel, on a weekly basis we shoot educational videos that will ease your journey as a student. So I encourage you to subscribe by clicking on the subscribe button down below. Also remember to click on the notification bell so that you will receive every notification whenever we release a new video. Without not being said, let's get to the ball and get started. Thank you. Let's get started with today's class. So in today's class, we're looking at quadratic equations. And under quadratic equations, we are going to learn how to solve quadratic equation using the following methods. Alright? Factorization method, the big X method, quadratic formula, and completing the squares method. Though we may not be able to finish all these methods in a single class, but nevertheless, watch out for the part 2 of this video. So let's get started. What is a quadratic equation? A quadratic equation is an algebraic equation in the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0, where a, b, and c are real numbers. Real numbers in the sense that they are either negative or positive or fractions. And the value of a cannot be equal to 0. Alright? The value of a cannot be equal to 0. Reason being that if a is equal to 0, 0 times x squared will give us what? 0. Everything will become 0. And this will become a linear equation. So it is very important that this x squared is always there because the x represents the variable in the quadratic equation. Alright? So a cannot be equal to 0 because when a is equal to 0, a times anything gives you what? 0. Therefore, it will no longer be a quadratic equation. And the quad represents what? Raised to the power of 2. So we can also say that a quadratic equation is a mathematical equation with the power to the polynomial of 2, to the degree of 2. Alright? So with this little explanation of mine, I think we can now start solving quadratic equations. Alright? So before I continue, there's a difference between a quadratic expression and a quadratic equation. If I have something like this, let's say x squared plus 7x plus 10. This is a quadratic expression. And this quadratic expression can be best solved by the Factorization method. But when it's equal to 0, that becomes a quadratic equation. Alright? And it must always be in this form. Ax squared plus bx plus c equal to 0. If for any reason it is scattered, let's say now this 10 that is here was actually put this side to be minus 10. Alright, and you have to solve this. It is your responsibility to bring this minus 10 to this side, which will become what? Plus 10. When you cross over the equality sign, and here becomes 0. So a quadratic equation must always be what? Arranged in this format. Alright? So let's go with the first method, solving quadratic equation by what? The factorization method. So in solving, now you multiply this term by the last one here. You are going to have 10x squared. Alright, the coefficient of a, you multiply by what? The last term here, 10x squared. Now you bring out the factors of 10, which is what? 1, 2, 5, and 10. These are the factors of 10. Alright, so now in these factors of 10, you have to look for two factors that when you multiply them, your result will be 10. And when you add or subtract them, your result will be what? 7. Alright, in this case, we have 2 times 5, which is equal to what? 10. And if I say 2 plus what? 5, I'll get what? 7. So now these 2 and 5 have met the two conditions. So I'm going to do what? Use 2 and 5 because 2 times 5 will give me 10 and 2 plus 5 will give me 7. So whichever factor you choose must meet the two conditions. That when you multiply them, it gives you what? The constant term c. And when you add them up, it gives you the coefficient of x, which is a what? The middle term. Right? So if I go further, this will become what? X squared plus 2x plus 5x plus 10 equal to 0. Alright? So now if I say 2x plus 5x, I will still get 7x. I have just what? Splitted this. Now I'm going to consider these first two terms. What is common? What can I see here and I can see here? I can see x and x. So I'll put x outside the bracket. It becomes x plus what? 2. So that if I say x times x, that gives me x squared. And if I say x times 2, that gives me 2x. Alright? Plus, now what can I see here? Then I can also see here. I can see 5. 5 in itself and 5 is in the 10. So that will become 5 into what? X plus 2. So that if I say 5 times x, I have 5x. And if I say 5 times 2, I have 10. Alright? So that becomes what? Equal to 0. Now, mind you, you see that these two brackets are the same. When solving a quadratic equation by the method of factorization, these two brackets must be the same. Alright? They must be the same. And when they are the same, you will now pick out this one. X plus 5 into x plus 2 equal to what? 0. Sorry, here it's supposed to be 0, okay? Equal to 0. So now that I've solved this one here, I have completely done factorization. Alright? So if there was no equal to 0, alright, and I'm to factorize this quadratic equation, then my answer will stop here. Okay? But in this case now there's equal to 0, equal to what? 0. So I have to proceed. Now that means that if I multiply, bracket in my mind is means multiplication. That means if I multiply this and this, I should get 0. That means either x plus 5 is equal to 0 or x plus 2 is equal to 0. Alright? So I'll now collect like them so that this 5 goes like that. That becomes x is equal to what? 0 minus 5. Or x is equal to what? 0 minus 2. And 0 minus 5 gives us what? Minus 5. Because that means nothing out of 5. So our x will be equal to what? Minus 5. Or x is equal to what? Minus 2. Therefore, our final answer after factorizing this will give us what? X equals to minus 5 or x equals to minus 2, which can be written as this. X is equals to minus 5, minus 2. Right? Let me write it properly. X is equals to minus 5, minus 2. 6x squared minus 7x plus 2 equals to 0. So remember in our example 1, we multiply this term by the last term. We'll do the same thing. This term here multiplied by this term here. You have 12x squared. Now, you consider the factors of 12, which is what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. Now, all these factors of 12 means that when you say 12 divided by any of these, you will get an answer without a remainder. That is why they are called factors of 12. Alright? So now in these factors of 12, you will have to look for two factors that when you either add or subtract them, you will get a negative 7. And when you multiply them, you should get 12. Alright? So now let's consider 6 and 1. Minus 6 minus 1 will give us minus 7. But if I multiply minus 6 and minus 1, I will not be able to get 12. Right? So that's the reason why I cannot use what? Minus 6 and minus 1. So therefore, what will be the next thing to use? 3 and 4. Because if I say minus 3 minus 4, I'll have minus 7. Minus 3 means you are owing somebody 3 naira and you still borrow another. Let's say you are owing somebody $3 and you still borrow another $4 from that person. That means together you're owing that person $7. Because it is not yours, that's why it's minus what? 7. You borrowed it. Alright? So that means, and if I say minus 3 times minus 4, I am going to get plus 12. So 3 and 4 happen to meet these two required conditions. That if I add or subtract them, it gives me the middle term. And if I multiply them, it gives me the result. On which I go multiplying the first term and the last one. Okay? So if I proceed further, that becomes 6x squared minus 3x minus 4x plus 2 equal to what? 0. Right? So all I did was what? Now if I say minus 3x plus minus 4x, I will see obtain 7x. Okay? So now, What is common between these two? 3. So I'll put 3x outside into what? 2x minus 1. So that if I say 3x times 2x, I will still have 6x squared. And 3x times minus 1, I will still have what? Minus 3x. So what is common between these other two? 2 is common. So I'll say minus 2 into what? 2x minus 1 is equal to what? 0. So that if I say minus 2 times minus 2 times 2x will give me minus 4x, and minus 2 times minus 1 will give me plus 2. Alright? So now I will now bring these two, just like we did in our previous thing. When the two of them were the same, we took this one and this one. And in this case, they are also what? The same. So we pick out 3x minus 2 into what? 2x minus 1 is equal to what? 0. Alright? So we have been able to what? Solve this quadratic expression. But in this case, that is an equation, so we need to get the original values of what? X. So that means we are going to split this into two parts. That means 3x minus 2 is either equal to 0 or 2x minus 1 is equal to what? 0. So we are going to collect like terms. So that this minus 2 goes over to that side. That becomes 3x is equal to what? 0 plus 2. Plus 2 because the 2 cross over the equality sign, so the sign will change. Or 2x is equals what? 0 plus 1. Alright? So that means our 3x will be equals to what? 0 plus 2 is 2. Or 2x will be equals to what? 0 plus 1 is what? 1. So we divide both sides by the coefficient of x so that we can obtain the exact value of x. So that we now have what? X is equals to what? 2 over 3. And we divide both sides by 3. Or x is equals to what? 1 over 2. Therefore, our x will be equals to what? 2 over 3, 1 over 2. So we have come to the end of the first method, solving a quadratic equation by factorization. So we are going to use the same examples that we use. So please take note of the same examples in order to use what? The Pdx method. So these are the answers. So without wasting much time, now let's so just like the name implies, the Pdx method, we'll draw a big X. Alright? Now we'll multiply. Now the coefficient of x squared is 1. 1 times 10 is 10. So I'll write that result here. And I'll put 7 down. This 7 is coming from the middle 10, okay? So like we said, the factors of 10 are what? 1, 2, 5, and 10. So among these factors, I will have to look for two factors that when I multiply them, I will get 10. And when I add or subtract them, I will get 7. So remember, 5 and 2. 5 times 2, 10. 5 plus 2, 7. Alright? So now the next step I am going to do is to divide the coefficient of x squared, by these two terms. In this case is 1, so I'll divide it by 1, and the result I will obtain will be my answer. So my x will be equal to what? 5, 2. But in this case now, I am going to write the opposite of my answer. You understand? Because right now they are positive, so my x will now be equal to what? Minus 5, minus 2. Alright? So that will be what? That will be the answers. So let's go ahead and solve this same one using the Pdx method. So I will draw an x. Alright? 6 times 2, 12. I will put the 12 here. Alright? Now, this minus 7 will be here. Alright? Minus 7 will be here. Now remember, we have to look for two factors inside of 12. That when we multiply them, we get 12. And when we add or subtract them, we get 7. And in our previous class, we see that those two factors are what? Minus 4 and minus 3. Minus 4 times minus 3 plus 12. Minus 4 minus 3 gives us minus 7. Alright? Now we're not going to divide these factors by the coefficient of x squared, which in this case is 6. Alright? So here will be divided by 6 and divided by what? 6. That means my x will be equal to what? 4 over 6 give us what? 2 over 3. 2 here 2, 2 here 2, 2 here 3, comma, and there will be a negative sign, right? Comma, 3 here 1, 3 here 2, minus 1 over 2. So my final answer will now be the opposite, alright? So my x will now be equal to what? 2 over 3, comma 1 over 2. So I write the opposite of these answers, right? So remember, in this case, it was positive when I divided by the coefficient of what? Of x squared, which is 1. After getting 5 and 2, I'll have to write the opposite of the answer. The opposite of 5 and 2, which is minus 5 and minus 2. In this case now, I got what? Minus 2 over 3 and minus 1 over 2. I have to write the opposite of the answer, which is what? Plus 2 over 3 and 1 over 2. So we have come to the end of today's class. Right? We've been able to solve quadratic equation using two methods, the factorization method and the Pdx method. Please, if there is any question, I would like to see them in the comment section, and I hope to answer them one after the other. And do well to like this video and subscribe to this channel if you are yet to. And the subscription is free because it will help us, it will help the YouTube algorithm populate our videos so that other people can come to watch it, and as well help the channel grow in number. Thank you very much for staying with us to the very end of this class. We hope to bless you by the same time next week. Thank you very much.